Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Ham Nation is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Ham Nation, episode number 45, April 24th, 2012. Joe Rudy trades his baseball glove for a Morse code key. Good evening, everybody. From Springfield, Missouri, it's Bob Heil and all of my friends on Ham Nation. We're glad that you tuned in, and the next hour is going to be a very interesting and fun hour, as it always is here from the Twit Network. And over here on the other side of the world, from California, is our good friend Gordon, WB6NOA. Hi, Gordo.
Well, hi there, everyone on Ham Nation. You were looking good, all of you, at the NAB conference last week. Sorry I took the week off, but I just wanted to see all the fun you were having over there. And during that week, I set up with Clint Bradford for the International Space Station contact. We're going to have that next week. Julian and I are doing a little bit of editing to pull out the very best parts, and it was a great contact with the astronauts aloft, and all the kids were really thrilled to talk to them. So we'll have that next week, Bob. Back to you.
I understand that that event hit the front page, the whole top half of one of the papers there in the area. So that's there again, giving amateur radio the great notice that we're here and alive, and we do more than just talk to each other. We're bringing the kids in and astronauts and everybody else. So that's great. Thanks for doing that. I look forward to that next week. That'll be fun. We had a great time in Las Vegas. And George, did you survive all that? You get back to Mississippi okay? George Thomas.
Yeah. I survived it, Bob, and I got home a day late after spending the night in Houston on the way back home because of some airline mix-ups.
Oh,
no. I made it back, got a lot of video there I'll be using in the future here. Met some great friends. We hung out with Julian, of course, the virtual Gordo, and Randy, K7AGE, and Kirk, and just a lot of folks.
Oh, that's great. We had a lot of fun doing the show with Leo. If you guys didn't see it, why, go back and look at the replay and listen to the replay. All of our shows are available on the podcast, so you can listen to them and also dial them up on iTunes. It's a lot of fun to be able to have all those different shows. And here we are tonight with our 45th show. That's just almost amazing that we're coming up on a year of Ham Nation. But we had a good time at NAB. George, what did you see of all the products? Was there one product that really caught your eye and meant something to you?
Well, I looked at a lot of products. I looked at video stuff this year, which I have not had a chance to do in recent years, and Blackmagic really had some nice stuff there. Probably the most different thing I saw was a 3D display there that did not require glasses, and you could walk around the sides of it and see different angles of what you were looking at. That was pretty unusual.
Yeah, Scott was talking about that. We live streamed the amateur radio reception, which we every year support and sponsor along with everybody at BSW. That's quite an event. This year they gave away $15,500 worth of prizes, Gordo, and you weren't there to get your prize. So there. Next year you got to make the reception, you see. But we had a good time, and you can go back and watch that replay also if you missed it. But Scott Wilkinson, who is the home theater expert here on the Twit Network, he was really happy with some of the stuff in that 3D stuff. There we are last week from Las Vegas, and the set really looked good. Everyone behind the scenes at TWiT, you guys and gals did such a wonderful job. Look how pretty that is. It really looks great. And I know it's a lot of work for each of you, so thanks for doing that. And thanks for having us as guests on the platform. That was super. But of course, my pick there was out in the parking lot. And I got to tell you that I'm so impressed with this thing from Viasat. You're watching me via this new service. Viasat is a new satellite service. Well, it's new to the consumer. It's been around doing the armed services for years over in Korea, but they put up their own satellite about 3 years ago, and they've been working on this. And, usually internet via satellite is not good. It's so jerky and delayed and all that. That's not taking place here on Viasat. I don't know how they did it, but they did it. Well, they were in the parking lot, and you see all these big uplink trucks. It's got the antennas and stuff. They got a new deal. It was a little suitcase, and it had an 18-inch dish on it, a pair of headphones, and a microphone. And so the news anchor can run out in the field, pop open the suitcase, boom. He can do everything from that suitcase. It's going to be really something. And so that's what's coming in the broadcast industry. But for people like myself here in my new second home in Springfield, Missouri, actually we're in Pleasant Hope. By the way, it's population 614. Why we didn't have any internet here. And so I heard about this Viasat thing. I was like, well, we'll try it. But boy, it's really good, and I'm very excited about the new technology that they're bringing to the market. So that was hot. That was really good. And of course we were with Julian, and I know he shot a lot of video, so we'll be seeing a lot of that. Randy was there, AGE. He shot a lot of video. And as you see in the picture that they're showing, that's Kirk Karnak. He works for Telos, the people that build the audio board that you're listening to us through at the TWiT Brick House. But that was such a fun night. And of course, that's Scott. You'll see on the screen, and George, and Julian's watching over the whole thing, and he was around with his camera. But that's just a few you can see in the background of some of the great participants that were there. It's a wonderful event. So we had fun. Next year, we'll do more. Who knows where it'll be. One of the things that I want to do, I was invited to a radio club meeting here in Springfield. And I'm very attuned with amateur radio around Springfield. Most of it's all HF, a whole bunch of it on AM and sideband. We meet with them. We'll have a little luncheon this next Thursday at the Pizza Inn. We all meet every Thursday. But most of them are all HF guys and AM guys. Well, I was invited by one of the guys in the chat room. You see him as a photo guy. Well, he's got a new license coming, Gordon. He took his test and he's waiting. How you like that? Just because of Ham Nation. And he joined the club and invited me. So I went. And you figure, well, it's just a little club meeting. Whoa. I want to show you 3 minutes of video of some of the most incredible things that's going on. And George Thomas is going to be saying, I told you guys not to throw your stuff away. Look what this club at Springfield does with junk modems. Let's see what happens with the Southwest Amateur Radio Club.
I'm Sean McKee, KD0CNP, and I reside here in Springfield, Missouri. This here is a WRT 54G. We've taken the cover off of the actual radio unit to expose for viewing the area that needs modification. If you change the 20 megahertz crystal viewable there in the corner with a 16 megahertz crystal, it drops it down to the 2.3 gigahertz band, which is within the ham band, and you can run high-speed data over this.
I'm Steve Palmer, KA0SPM from Springfield. And with the router that Sean just showed, we can use these antennas and a DirecTV satellite dish, which will allow us to go with high gain in a direction to do high-speed data on ham radio. So things like amateur television, voice over IP, really easy because it's all just computer stuff. And it's taking ham radio into the 21st century.
Now, on this side of the box, we have a WET 11, which was leftover hardware. This is the other side of a receive link. It was a microwave link that I built out of junk, and this actually gave us...
Wait a minute. You built it out of junk?
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
This was discarded Wi-Fi hardware. It's not usually wanted anymore because it's just 802.11b. So it doesn't have the same data rate as the new N hardware. So people don't really like to transfer files over it, but it's perfectly fine for giving you internet out at a field day, which is what this was used for.
I'm Patty, KD0AEL.
And you guys keep all the things running here, right?
I am. I'm the secretary. I keep everything in order.
Make sure everybody behaves and stuff like that, right?
That's right. I'm also the coordinator for Greene County Skywarden, so it's the hat.
That is so important. And thank you for having me. This is great. What do you do for your daytime job?
Well, I am self-employed. I work as a consultant primarily, and I deal in open source hardware, open source software, custom engineered solutions, and I do this for select clients who have problems that were otherwise unsolvable.
But with you, they are solvable.
Well, usually.
And you better than everything, you're a ham.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. Hey, Franklin, thank you for having sent the invitation to me.
No problem.
And so you're going to get involved in this organization,
Yes,
huh?
I am.
All right. Well, thanks so much. We're going to see you guys on the air, that's for sure, and we'll hear a lot more from you. There's their antenna outside, and the Red Cross truck. They hold their meetings in the Red Cross here in Springfield. So I really had a good time there, and look forward to many more of those. So that's what it's all about, everybody. Amateur radio is just full of these little things happening all over the country. But taking your old modem and building an amateur radio transmitter, that pretty cool, isn't it, Gordo? What do you think?
Well, I would say so. I wonder what kind of range they were able to get with that little homebrew feed on their dish antennas. I bet they're getting a half a mile to a mile at some pretty high speeds. What do you think?
We'll have to have Sean and some of those guys on and talk more about that, because you're exactly right. We'll see what happens. And they used it to communicate around on field day, so we'll find out more about that, because I'll be there on field day with them. I can guarantee you that. That'll be a place to hang out. Super duper. How'd you like the junk, George? Was that cool?
That was some neat junk, Bob. And I've got one of those WRT 54G modems myself, and there's a firmware available for that you can load into it and change the power on the rig, so that it puts out a little more than it normally would. And now, while that might not be legal for the average consumer, I think we hams can run a little more power in our band there. So it's a nice little modem. I don't think you can still buy that Wi-Fi setup, but you can probably find them around on the internet. And I'd suggest grabbing one, because that's the one everybody likes to hack on.
Well, it's all junk to a lot of people, but not to us.
Nope.
That's great. Well, I'm always looking for interesting people. And some years ago, I met a really interesting person, and I knew him as a big contest operator. And then all of a sudden I'm going, wait a minute, that name is familiar to me. And holy smokes, it was somebody that has been in 3 World Series. It was Joe Rudy in K7U. And he is just a delightful person. And I thought, we need to bring him on and let him tell the world about what's going on in his life. And I understand you just visited again that same field. Welcome to Ham Nation, Joe Rudy. It's nice to see you through the old internet here.
Thanks, Bob. It's great to be here. It's hard to believe the technology and how fast things are moving.
You have really laid some groundwork. I see on the amateur radio front. I saw an article. See if you can see this, guys. There's a picture of Joe. This was in Sports Illustrated, and climbing one of your towers. And boy, you've got all the hardware around you to do that. I congratulate you on that. And tell us a little bit about what you're doing in amateur radio and why you enjoy it and all that good stuff, Joe.
Well, for me, it's really been a great vessel for me to channel my energies after I retired. I've been on a baseball, hard to believe, since 1983 was my last year. And a lot of people don't realize how hard of an adjustment it is. I was in that from the time I was a little kid playing sports, and all of a sudden now you're out of it. I coached a little bit on and off, but wanted to stay home. We had 4 children, and I know earlier on in our marriage, my poor wife was a golf widow, and then I got up here and got into hunting a little bit, and I was gone a lot on that, and then I started getting more and more interested in the ham radio side, and I think she enjoys it because I'm home all the time. So it's been sort of a joint thing that she enjoys having me home so much. And my main interest is contesting. I've really enjoyed that. I like the team atmosphere. I've been very blessed with guys coming over and operating here. Years ago, NI-7T, Mike Reagan was living here in Baker and sort of helped me get started in the contesting world as far as really, moving forward, expanding the station. He left years ago. He worked for the Forest Service in the mid-'90s, and Scott Tuthill, K7 Zulu Oscar, came on board just about the same time as Mike left, and he has been a great blessing because he's a tech person, worked for Hewlett-Packard, and really understood computers and sort of moved us into that computer world as we started moving into that in the late 80s, early 90s. And I've done most of the tower work and outside work. I never really had a chance to get much of a background in the technical side of ham radio. So, I sort of taught myself and worked with a lot of people. Russ Drake taught me a lot about climbing towers, worked with him a lot over at his station. And so I let Scott handle most of the stuff inside here. As far as hooking up all the networks, we almost always operate multi-single, multi-two, multi-multi, and it's been a great release for me. I just love it. It's one of those things that when you wake up in the morning, you're thinking about what can I do more to make the station better, and you sort of go to bed at night. The last thing you do is turn the radio off and head for bed, and it's one of those things that it just becomes part of your being as far as being a ham. I really, really have enjoyed the hobby, Bob.
Well, that's great. And let's take you back to 72, 73, 74. We have a great picture of a couple of pictures of those days. One of them where you made a spectacular catch. And I'm sure that some of these memories are with you all the time. Explain what you're doing there. You're about, 30 feet off the ground? That was a great catch.
I wish I was that far off the ground. No, that was in, I think it was the second game against the Cincinnati Reds in the 72 World Series. And I think it was like the 8th inning. We had a 2-run lead at the time, and I think we ended up winning 2-1. And just right place to the right time, and ran back. And I think I was as surprised as anybody that I actually caught the ball. It was right on the edge of the sun. You can see my sunglasses are down. And some fans sent me that picture years ago, and really sort of a unique picture. I already overlaid the two, but yeah, it was really fun. It was hard to believe. It's been 40 years. I just got back this last weekend. We had a reunion down in Oakland. They did a beautiful job. Brought in about 20 of the players. We've lost a few, mainly. Catfish Hunter died from ALS, and a lot of the activities this weekend are surrounded doing fundraising for the Catfish Hunter ALS Foundation. We raised about $25,000 for that this weekend, just signing autographs and doing some other things for them. And the A's brought us all out in convertibles and had us come out to center field. It was actually Raleigh Fingers bobblehead night, of all things. So they gave out about 10,000 Raleigh Finger bobbleheads, and I kept kidding Raleigh that we're going to have an auction between the players and see who could take one and hit it the furthest with a bat. But obviously, we didn't do that. With him being Hall of Fame one of these days, those things will be worth a lot of money, probably.
Oh, well, you were MVP for what, 2 or 3 years, was it?
I never actually got the MVP. I was real close, but I think I finished second a couple of years there. But I'm trying to look back and think about who actually got this. See, Gene Tennis, he hit 4 home runs there in his very first World Series, and then I think Reggie Jackson was the MVP in '73, and Raleigh Fingers won it in '74. And I think I ended up second in either all 3 of them or the 2 there. But doesn't make any difference. We won, and that's all that people remember is who won.
That's right. It's a team effort. But I do know that you have some Golden Gloves also, right?
I was very fortunate to do that. I was when we first moved to Oakland, I was just so blessed that we had Joe DiMaggio as our bench coach, who came on in 1968 and 1969, and just a wonderful man. He was so different from his public persona. Everybody thought he was, sort of distant and everything else, and he was a prankster. You had to be careful where you walked and where you sat down with him, and he was always giving you ribs. And we hit it off, and he worked with me almost every day for 2 years out there in the outfield teaching me, because I'd been an infielder. I played high school ball. I signed right out of high school, and I had always played the infield until the year before I went to the big leagues, and so I had a lot to learn. And it was just a blessing having him there and being able to go out and work with him day after day.
Well, that's such a great career, and we're so excited that you could share some of that with us. Let's take a look at a couple of your antenna systems, and you might explain what we are about to see. It really looks like a great installation.
Oh, wow.
You like that, Gordo?
Yeah, I'll take that. Would be very nice out in Southern California, huh? Joe, what a great antenna. What's your favorite band, Joe?
Well, I've always been a big fan of the low bands. I like 80 and 160. That was my last station. I've actually moved 4 times here since I've been here in the Valley in the 70s. And the main picture at the top is a 3-element M-squared 80-meter beam that I had. When I moved over to the present location, giving into a little bit of age and prompting, and I should say a big bullwhip for my wife, I did not put that antenna back up. I went to a 4-square array system and sold the 80-meter beam. That was really the only antenna that scared me. Weighed about 450 pounds, and obviously if something happened up on the tower, I couldn't handle that antenna. Most of the other antennas are light enough that if I had to, I could hold on to them or handle them more or less. But we had about 7 or 8 towers at that station, and I just moved here in 2007. That's one of the present-day towers with it's got 5 tick rings on it. Let's see, I've got stacked M-squared 4-element 40s, stacked 5-element 20s, stacked 7-element M-squared 10s. Most of my antennas, I've worked with Mike Stahl at M-squared to either design or he's made them for me, and they've been excellent antennas up here with the winds and the ice and snow that we get in the winter times. You'll get down 20, 30 below here in the winter time. I've still got some of my original antennas from Mike from the mid 70s actually, and I've been very, very fortunate to develop a relationship with him.
That is really something. Now, Joe, what do you do for 160? Certainly you don't have aluminum for 160. What's your secret for a good signal at night?
Well, actually, I tried a couple stations back. I bought a Force 12 80-meter or 160-meter dipole and put it up at about 200 feet, and just really still didn't work. I right now, it's probably the best system I've got. It's a wire 4-square sloping. It's a half-wave slopers off of about a 160-foot tower that George W2BJN helped design for me. He had the same antenna at his place, and it has a little bit of selectivity, a little bit of front to back and stuff, and it's been by far the best 160 antenna that I've had. So it's been a lot of fun playing with that.
That's great. I note to you that one of your good friends is in the chat room, and he's going to be on next week, and that's K3LR. And you guys share A lot of wonderful antenna projects together, I guess. So we'll have to see what's going on next week from K3LR. And nice to see him in the chat room. Well, those antenna systems are fabulous. And it all starts up there in the antenna so you can get things happening. That's for sure. What are you doing for amplifiers and exciters? What are you liking today?
Well, first of all, let me say hi to Tim. He's been a very, very good friend. He's been a lot of help. He's got a lot of technical background. Of course, my station is about like single A, maybe double A compared to his, which is all-star major league. To me, Tim has the gold standard of all ham radio stations, and he's been a great help to me. I've called him so many times to ask him help from the 3-element 80-meter beam to the 80-meter 4-square and on and on. So I really have appreciated his help. I've been pretty blessed. I've had the same amplifiers for a long, long time. Quite a while back, I bought Alpha 78s and recently converted those to the 3CX800s, and then I bought mostly I've ran those probably for about 25 or 30 years. And so been very, very happy with those, and haven't had many problems. Been very, very lucky. I try to stay right around, be well below the 1500 mark. And if you don't, punish your amplifiers, they'll last forever. And most of my tubes, I don't think I've had, I can't even remember a tube failure where I've had a tube go bad. So it's been very, very fortunate that well-made amplifiers and like I said, most of the time we're operating in a multi-operator situation, so we do run the amps full time.
How many operators do you have when you're doing one of the large contests? So some of the audience don't really maybe understand when you're talking multi. How many operators would be at your station operating a weekend contest?
Well, most of the guys from the back east would probably laugh when we talk multi, but we're lucky to get 5 or 6 guys here. I live pretty far away from I'm about 140 miles northwest of Boise, Idaho, which is our closest airport, and where some of the guys come over from. It's always been a little difficult getting the guys here for contests. We started out doing multi-single. When they brought on the multi-2 category, we sort of liked that one because it just gave us an opportunity to get on more and more. And every once in a while, we'll just get a bunch of guys here, and they'll show up and come down so we can get, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys here. And so we're pretty tired by the end of the contest because most of the time we don't have enough operators. I know, like the guys back east, Tim's station and stuff, they've got 2 guys on every band, for the whole contest. And that's just an impossibility out here.
Well, I know the situation you have is trying to reach into Europe, and you've got all those signals like LR and all those guys on the East Coast. But I have to tell you that one of the things I find about we're talking the heavyweights in contesting, like yourself and Tim and Frank, LPL, you guys love to share your information. And, in a lot of hobbies and things, we want to keep this all a secret. I want to be number one. And I just find this so cool that in the amateur radio fraternity, we're out there competing on a weekend, but during the middle of the week, you guys are sharing things and maybe going and even helping each other with antenna systems. I find that really a cool thing in amateur radio, and I'm sure that you find that when you're sharing things with Mike Stahl and all these big guys that know what's happening. They're not afraid to share it, right?
Absolutely. It's been such a great thing for me. Again, I had very little technical background. I mean, when I first got into ham radio, I was still playing baseball. I couldn't climb towers. I spent hours and hours and hours on with Bob Ferrero at HRO. He helped me order my first antennas and towers. When we first moved up here to Oregon, I bought about a 300-acre ranch, and we lived here in the winter times. And then I think I probably wore Carl Cook AI6V out also because I spent, I don't know how many hundreds of hours on with him on the phone asking questions about doing things, everything from soldering coax to, you name it, how long to cut a dipole. I mean, all that stuff I had to learn from scratch, and it's just been such a blessing to have these guys come on and help me. And then, like I said, I met Mike NI7T back in the early 80s. He had a lot of technical background, and we was just sort of, feeding on each other. And after I retired, I sort of went nuts. I didn't realize at the time that there was a slight difference between the East Coast and the West Coast as I was starting to build my station. And by the time we got done, we had about 10 towers up. And like I said, I had the 3-element 80-meter beam, stacked 40s, 4 stacks on 20 and 15 and 10. And finally dawned on me about the time that I met Tim and started talking to him. And he started helping me understand a lot of the differences between the East Coast and the West Coast. And going through that auroral zone up there on the North Pole, it sure doesn't help on the low bands, let's put it that way. So anyway, but like you said, it's been such a great sharing and everything else. And now, even though we know we can never beat the East Coast, even with my station, the guy with a tri-bender and dipoles on 40 and 80, I have no chance against somebody like that on the East Coast. But we just do it because we have fun. We enjoy having the guys around, the camaraderie of the guys being here, the planning. We're already talking on the phone and exchanging emails about what changes we want to make at the station this year, what we want to add, and things we tried that didn't work. And that's to me is a great part of the ham radio thing. It's just the sharing, and so many guys out there that, like you said, the big heavy duty guys that could keep all that knowledge to themselves, that actually have a background like Tim with his broadcast engineering background and all the stuff that he's learned over the years, but they just freely share it and email you diagrams and all kinds of stuff. So it's been great.
Joe, in closing, you got to tell the story to everyone. We watched old number 26 make those great catches and play that great ball in those days. And everybody's going home out of the stadium, and you go over to your hotel and tell that story about what you would do when you'd get back to the room after some of these gigantic games that everybody had been cheering about and so on. What did Joe Rudy, number 26, do in that hotel?
Well, I think a lot of the players thought I was nuts, but I would go back, and I got my license in, 75 or something like that, and I played another 8 years. And so I started taking, I had an Atlas 210X, and I had a special suitcase. Obviously, most of the bellmen and the guys at the ballpark got to know very well because it weighed a ton. And I would haul that, and at the beginning, the early hotels, we could open the window, and so I had a collapsible, about a 15-foot collapsible fishing pole, and I had a real large fishing reel with about 300 feet of copper wire on it, and I put a sinker on the end, stick it out the window, put telephone books on it, load it through a tuner, and talk. I always asked the traveling secretary to put me on the highest floor he could get me on the north side of a hotel. And one of my goals was to try to work 100 countries before I retired. I think I got up in the mid-'80s. And later on, we started getting into hotels. They renovate, they nicer hotels, and we couldn't open the windows anymore. So don't tell anybody, but I used to carry a drill with me and about a 1/4-inch a little bit 3/8-inch sized long drill, and I drill a hole down the lower left-hand corner of the window. And I had those long, skinny weights for fishing, and I'd stick that on the end of the wire, stick it out the window, and drop it down. I did that for a couple of years, and then finally went to I made a U-bracket. Actually, a friend of mine, Jerry, in 7WR now, made the actual bracket for me, welded it together, and we made a back-to-back dipole out of the Hustler antennas. I had a different resonator, or a pair of them for 10 through 80, and so I'd put that up on a camera tripod, right up against the window, and that worked pretty good, especially from the height. And it's always experimenting, trying to find a better way to do things. But I think a lot of the guys would stop by my room or something and see that thing going with all the noise coming out of the radio, and definitely thought I was something was wrong with me.
Joe Rudy, that's great. Joe carried a drill, and Joe Walsh carried a McCulloch chainsaw. So we'll just leave it right there. You can think about the rest. Joe, thanks for coming and telling us about some of your experiences and showing some of your station. And we really appreciate it. Good luck to you in all the contests. And we'll look forward to hearing more from NK7U, number 26. What a great evening this was. So thanks for coming by. And thanks to Sharon for sharing you with us here for a few minutes on Ham Nation.
Well, thank you, Bob, and keep going with the great products. I sure enjoy your contest headsets and all the mics and everything. You sound super. So look forward to seeing you at the next Hamfest.
Okay, we will see you. Thanks so much for being here. So there you go. I guess, George, you're going to have to get a drill the next time we go to Las Vegas and drill a hole in a windowsill. Is that right?
I think I am, because you can't open them anymore. And, boy, what is it with these guys who play baseball and guitar named Joe? They can figure out a way to operate anywhere, can't they?
It's having fun. Isn't that right? It's having fun.
Yep. All about the fun.
Much, much, much fun. Well, we need to find out what happened while we were gone and away at Las Vegas. Let's switch over to that guy that's got that PR40 tattoo on his arm, Don Wilbanks, and see what Bill Pasternak's Newsline has for us this week here on Ham Nation. Don, take her away.
From Amateur Radio Newsline Report number 1810, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Tuesday, April 24, 2012. A new paper released by Ham in Germany may shed some light on sources of interference on the ham bands caused by radar systems worldwide. Wolfgang Hadel, DK2OM, has made available a report documenting high-frequency over-the-horizon radar systems used around the world. Also included are ionosphere and troposphere diagnostic radars, as well as ocean wave and coastal radars. All of these can interfere with amateur radio and shortwave listening. The report is an exceedingly thorough look at these various radar systems and their uses. It also includes explanations of how some of the systems work and includes photographs, maps, and graphs of some of the operations. The 36-page report is free to anyone who wants a copy. You can find the URL on the print edition of this week's Amateur Radio Newsline Report. A follow-up and a possible answer to the question of just what aeronautical radar system Gary Dent, AF6HP, was issued a notice of violation by the FCC for interfering with. It's now been made public that the FAA is in the process of deploying a new generation of common air route surveillance radar that operates in the 23-centimeter band. It has some implications for the use of the 1240 to 1300 megahertz band by radio amateurs. According to the ARRL, the systems are being installed in several dozen locations throughout the country, albeit the exact placement has not been announced. And as stated, this radar system is a primary user of the band, meaning that any and all other users must protect it from any man-made interference. That includes amateur radio, which holds secondary status. At this point, all that's really known is that the radar will use various frequencies in the 1240 to 1350 megahertz range with an occupied bandwidth of about 3 megahertz. As such, the League says that in the vicinity of these radars, amateur operation may be precluded in a portion of the 23-centimeter band. ARRL says that it's in contact with FAA engineers and that it anticipates that the constraints on amateur use of the band will be limited to those necessary to protect aviation safety. This, of course, is something that cannot ever be compromised. Whether or not this radar is the reason that AF6HP received his notice of violation is not known, because it's also not known if the Los Angeles area is the home of one of the improved radar facilities. Nor does it explain the additional charge of broadcasting that was included in the notice of violation issued to AF6HP. Another spectacular display from Old Saul. On April 16th, around 1745 UTC, magnetic fields curling over the sun's northeastern limb rose up and erupted, producing one of the most visually spectacular explosions in years. The event, which also produced an M1.7 class solar flare and a coronal mass ejection, was not Earth-directed. Nevertheless, it confirms suspicions that a significant active region of our home star is rotating onto the Earth-facing side of the sun. This could mean more flares and some interesting propagation in the coming days and weeks. Please visit spaceweather.com for videos of the solar event and the very latest updates. Retired FCC Amateur Radio Enforcement Chief Riley Hollingsworth, K4ZDH, has been named a CQ Magazine contributing editor, succeeding Washington Readout editor Fred Maya, W5YI, who recently became a silent key. Hollingsworth, a ham since 1960 and a longtime FCC attorney, became a household name in amateur radio in 1998. That's when he was named Special Counsel for Amateur Radio in the Commission's then newly created Enforcement Bureau. His highly visible enforcement actions were cheered by a majority in the amateur community, especially after more than a decade during which FCC enforcement on the ham bands was virtually non-existent. Riley Hollingsworth retired from the FCC in 2008, but has continued to be in demand for personal appearances within the ham radio community. The new monthly column will be titled Riley's Ramblings. It will incorporate Washington Readout's coverage of legislative and administrative actions that affect amateur radio, along with additional topics of importance and or interest to CQ's readers and the ham radio public at large. Hollingsworth's first column will appear in the July 2012 issue of CQ. In it, he'll explain why ongoing FCC enforcement actions since his retirement have been somewhat under the radar. And that's all from Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news, brought to you each and every week for nearly 35 years at www.arnewsline.org. I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW 73, and we'll see you next time here on Ham Nation.
All right, Don. Thank you. What a nice hat. That's great. You got a hat like that, Gordo? Yeah, you have a red hat like that?
We're going to have to hit Ray up for one of those ICOM. Julian, do you have an ICOM hat?
No, I don't have one either.
No, we don't have an ICOM hat.
George? I know George has got a Yesu hat, I bet you.
No, I don't, but I was talking with Ray at the ham radio reception. He asked me if I had a hat, and I told him I didn't, so I bet when I get to Dayton I'll have one.
Hey, talking about Dayton, we're going to really have an exciting time. There's going to be a Ham Nation booth. And you know what, Gordon? It's going to be right across from Nancy and the Fist Group, I do believe. So we'll have some of the CW people in the booth, and I think we're going to be able to live stream some stuff from there. So we're very excited about having the booth at Dayton this year. So we'll have more about that as we get along. So very, very good that things are moving forward for that. And what you got anything special for Dayton, Gordon?
Oh, we do. We're going to have a big booth. We're going to be looking for ham instructors as well as VEs. And I'm going to be doing some of the best practical demos. So those that have seen the blazing pickle and the ball that drops down the tube very slowly, as well as Julian. He's got right now, look at this. This is really cool. And this is what we're going to be doing at Dayton. Julian's got the ICOM at the other end of his laptop, tied into the HF down at his location or this location. So we're going to have plenty of demos at the Dayton Ham Fest, and we sure encourage everybody to come by both the W5YI booth as well as the Ham Nation booth.
Yeah, we're excited. George is going to be there, and I hear rumors that Amanda and Jeff are going to be there. Now, that's going to be really cool if they can make it, so we'll give you more details. And speaking of Amanda, we're going to switch out to the Denver area, and there's going to be somebody that has a tale about ham radio, and Amanda's going to tell us all about it. How are you, Amanda? Good to see you tonight.
Thank you. I wore all my baseball gear for in honor of Joe. Thanks, Joe, for being on tonight. That was great. Go Rockies. Okay, well, anyhow, I didn't get many stories this week. I think people are busy enjoying the nice weather out there. So I thought I'd give you guys a couple stories about my own clubs that I belong to. And two very opposite 180 here clubs, very fun clubs as well. The first one is the Royal Gorge Ham Club, and I joined them first. And they there's so many seasoned operators there. I would have to tell you guys that the average operating years, probably about 25 to 30 is what they have under their belts. So they're so smart. And so educational for me. It's very helpful for me to go and listen to all the things that they have to tell me about what they've done in their lifetimes. It's a great couple of World War II CW operators in there as well. So they're a lot of fun. Not easy to impress, though. One time I came in with a W1AW/KL7 QSL card that I had received. It was my first CW contact, I believe. And one of the guys, and they know that they're like this, so it's no problem. One of the guys said, an Alaska contact. Tell me about Alaska when you're in the Canary Islands doing QRP with the station powered by a hamster and a wheel. So hard to impress. Very hard to impress, but they are a great group of guys. And my next club that I belong to is the Pueblo West Amateur Radio Club. Hi, you guys. It's so nice to be able to talk about you guys a little bit. And they're very new. They've been around for about 3 years now. And the operators there, their average operating license time is about 5 years. So with them, I get to go in and we get to brag about our work till states certificates that we just received. We all get to learn about antennas the same way how to operate. And like I said, the two clubs are so far different, but so good. Both of them. I love going to both of them. So anyhow, you guys, I need to get your stories out there, and I'd love to hear your club stories. I think those are really motivational for everybody to get involved with their clubs. So why don't you send those out to hamtails@live.com. That's HAMTAILS@live.com. So there you go, you guys.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Add her up, huh?
Yeah.
Yes,
cool,
pitch me a
Uncle
story.
All right. We'll look forward to some more next week. And from there, we're going to switch down to Mississippi. And I see a little smoke going. I don't know if you got any solder, George, but let's see what's happening down in your lab tonight.
Okay, Bob. Well, tonight we're going to revisit and pick up with a topic we left off 2 weeks ago. We didn't have a smoke and solder last week because we were at the NAB convention and had plenty of stuff to talk about. So tonight we're going to talk about a free schematic. We talked about free schematic last time. This time we're going to talk about free CAD design software for making PC boards. And then next week we're actually going to transfer that onto a board and see how it turns out. And when we get back from this segment, we're going to give away this on-the-air light over my right shoulder here in the back. So you want to stay tuned for that. Plus, we're going to announce the winner of that ICOM receiver that we gave away during the ham reception last week. So, Alex, if you've got the video ready to roll, let's take a look. Last time on Smoke and Solder, we looked at Express Schematic, the free schematic creation program. This week, we're going to look at its companion, Express PCB. Now that we've created our schematic, it's time to move to Express PCB to create our PC board. First thing we'll do is we'll start a new document. We're going to choose 2 layers, although I'm only going to use 1 layer on this board. And we're going to change our default clearance around traces here to make it a little bit larger, since I'm going to do this at home. I'm not sending it out for production, and a little extra room couldn't hurt anything on my homemade PC boards. Now the next thing we're going to want to do is to choose which side of the board we're going to be drawing on. And we're going to draw on the bottom copper layer. We're not going to use the top layer. The first thing we'll do is go over here and select our components. We'll go down to dip 8-pin, since the 555 is an 8-pin dip chip. And we'll move that around about to the middle of the board here. And we're going to double click on it, and we're going to label this U, since that's the part ID that we had given it in the schematic. Now we'll also need a potentiometer, so we'll scroll down to potentiometers. I don't have any particular one here I'm going to use, so we'll just select one and place it on the board. Now I want the wiper to be coming out the other side of it, so I'll choose the selection tool, and then we'll rotate that till it's in the position we want. Then we'll drag it down and put it about where we think it should be. Now we'll double click this component, and we're going to label it R1. The next component we'll want is a capacitor, so we'll scroll up here to capacitors, and we'll pick a lead spacing of 0.25 inches, and we'll drop the capacitor on there. Now we'll want to rotate it to a different position and move it about where we think it should be. Now we can start connecting traces. Well, first let's label that capacitor. This is important. You need to put the part IDs in here, or it's not going to recognize your schematic. Now at this point, we go over here to File and Link Schematic to PCB, and we'll choose the schematic that we created earlier. And now we'll come over here to Place a Trace, grab that tool. We'll click on the wiper of the potentiometer, and you notice that it made 2 blue marks here, one where I clicked and one where that component should be connected. So I'll click over there, and then I'll have to right-click to release the trace tool. When I click on here, I've noticed there's 3 different places it needs to go. So the first thing we'll do is we're going to rotate that capacitor around, because there's no reason to have to go to the opposite side of it. So I'm going to right-click just to stop that, and then tell it to undo it. Go over here, select the capacitor, and let's rotate it on around one more time. Now let's place the trace, and this time our blue spot is on the correct end. So we'll click once, and then we'll right-click to release that tool. And we also need 2 traces coming down here. So we'll come back to our resistor, draw a line out the side a little bit, click once, then we'll draw down until we get about to the level we need to be to connect to the chip. Click again, come over and connect to this pin of the chip, click on it once, then right click to release that. And let's draw one more trace back from pin 7 of our chip, back over to this lead coming from the pot. Let's connect the capacitor, the other side of it. We'll click on it. We see it needs to go to pin 1 of the IC. Now, we're also going to need our positive voltage coming down to this pin of the IC and the potentiometer. And a convenient place to run it would be up under the capacitor here, so we don't have to cross any other lines, because unlike the schematic, when you're laying out the PC board, you can't have cross traces. So we'll click once up here, draw a straight line down, click again so that we can turn, come over here to pin 8 of the chip, click, and then right click to release it. Now we'll put a pad up here on top of this. Let's choose a 0.062 pad, and there it is. And here's where our positive voltage will come in. Now we've got a couple of other leads here that need to be connected on the chip. Pin 2 here is going to be the input frequency, so we'll click on it. Oops. First thing we should do is place a trace. Click on pin 2. Come across a little ways, click once, and then right click to release it. And pin 3 is going to be our divided frequency output. So we'll click on pin 3. And we'll also want to drop pads out here on the ends of these. And we want 3 ground pads. They'll also be connected right here to pin 1. So let's lay 3 ground pads up here. And my spacing probably could have been a little better. We'll come back and lay out a trace to those. And we'll need to connect all 3 together. And now our layout should be complete. Pins 4 and 5 are unused, so they're not connected to anything. Now we've got a lot of extra space on here. And we know from making our homemade PC boards that the more copper you have to eat off, the more time it's going to take. So we can go place a filled pane to fill out some of this area. Now I'm going to start by drawing it up here. I'm clicking at every corner and trying to draw straight lines. Okay, I right clicked, and now you can see what it did is it's going to leave copper here everywhere that red is. And you'll notice that it left a little gap around all our traces here, so nothing's shorted out. These here are ground, so they might as well connect to that ground plane. Now at this point, let's take a look at what we've got. We can look at the individual layers and the silk screen by choosing these tools over here. That's our components. This is the top copper layer, and we've messed up. All that stuff should really be on the bottom, but somehow it got on the top. If we look at the bottom, there's nothing but the holes there. So let's go back to the top here, and let's choose these traces and the ground plane one by one, and let's move them to the bottom copper layer. Notice they turn green. Now let's look at the bottom layer by itself, and let's look at the top layer. The top layer just has the holes now. Everything's on the bottom now, so that's going to work out fine. Now there's one other thing we need to do. All these ground pins here might as well be connected to the plane here to make it a ground plane. So we can go over here and right click on these pads. Bottom layer pad shape. Let's change that to thermal pad to fill plane. And you'll notice it put a couple of little lines there to connect that together. So let's go do that for all of these ground pads here. Even this pad here on the integrated circuit. Can we do that with the traces? Because we really don't need those traces. Apparently not. It really doesn't matter though. We could actually delete those traces now since we're connected to the ground plane. We could even take out this trace in between these. And notice how it fills on around. Now, this is a thermal pad, and the reason that you would choose a thermal pad is you notice that it connected around here in 4 different spots rather than just punching a hole right there in the center. That'll make it a little easier when you go to soldering because you won't have to warm up quite as much copper to get your solder to flow. So there we've got the completed board now with Express PC board. It didn't take long at all. There's better CAD programs out there, but for simplicity, I think you would find it hard to beat this one. Be sure to save your work. Now that I've created the board, I see there's a couple of things that I might like a little bit different. I might want these ground pads to be down here actually by the input and output connections. We'll just go select it and move it down. Well, this is a lot easier than doing it by hand, isn't it? Now we'll save that. And you could take this and export it to a mechanical drawing, or you could send it to Express PC board and have a PC board made from it. But what we're going to do here, since this is just a one-off, is we'll just print it out. We'll tell it the bottom copper layer only. And there we go. A nice printout of our circuit done in a very short amount of time. Now, how do we get that image on a PC board? We'll look at that next time. There's a couple of different ways now that we can get that on a PC board, and we'll look at one of them next week. It's a method I've used before without great success, but I'm hoping for better results this time. We'll just have to see how that turns out. Bob, what do you say we give away some stuff?
Yeah, we want to talk about what happened at Las Vegas. We graciously accepted the R7 receiver from Ray at ICOM, and we wanted to let some of the Ham Nation folks that were tuned in to the TWiT network join in all those thousands of dollars of prizes, and you figured out how to do it. So take it away, George. Who won that?
Well, our winner was Aaron Dela Cruz. And I don't have his call letters here, so he's probably not a ham, but that's okay. We said anyone could win this because it's a receiver. And congratulations, Aaron. And the way he won is we asked a question during the ham reception. And the question was, what was the what was the distress signal that the Titanic sent? And it was 3 letters. And we had probably 200 people enter the contest, but only 111 of them got it right. You know what everybody guessed. But those who knew, or those who took the time to look up, what did they determine it was, Bob?
Well, it certainly wasn't SOS, right?
That's right. It wasn't SOS.
Oh, Gordo, what was it?
It was CQD, and I was going to send it out here, but knowing me, this morning I was on the wrong sideband. I'll probably send it out on the air, so I better not, but it was CQD.
That's
CQD.
it.
Winner.
Next week, we're going to give away this nice on-air light here that is courtesy. Oh, gee, I forgot who this came from. It's been so many weeks, and I don't have a sticker on it. Who is the Go ahead. Go ahead, Bob.
Was it Cheap Ham? I said, was it
cheapham.com? Yes, cheapham.com sent us this to give away to some lucky viewer out there. It's a real nice little on-the-air light there made by Sandy's. And if you'd like to win that, here's the question for next week. What was I building this week? I know it was a PC board, but what was the circuit I was building? Now, you might have to go back a couple episodes and see where I drew that schematic if you don't remember what the circuit was. But just send in your answer to hamnationcontest@gmail.com, and we'll pick a lucky winner next week for this nice on-the-air light.
Hey, we look forward to that. Always look forward to your participation here on Ham Nation, George. How cool. Well, we're going to move up to northern Illinois and see what Cheryl's got. You might have a few things from the chat room. We're running short of time as usual, but let's go see what Cheryl's got first before we go back to Gordo.
Hi, good evening, everybody in the chat room and everybody on Ham Nation. Hello, I'm Cheryl S. at K9BIK. Anyhow, I just wanted to point out my new sign. This was a nice sign made by Jim's Engraving, He did a really nice job. It's on actually mahogany as the base there. And I just wanted to share it with you. If you like something like that, you could get one too at jimsengraving.com, or you could just simply email him with jim@jimsengraving.com. And if you like it that much, you could just say, I want the K9BIK sign. It even comes with a little control like this to do the LEDs. You can change them. They don't have to stay solid. Lots of neat things go on with something like that. Anyway, I do have some questions for you guys. Number one, Bob, is there an update in your new place in Pleasant Hope? Someone wanted to know that in the NAB chat room from last week, so there's one for you.
There's always an update. I ran another line today. That's antenna number 7. These are all coaxial dipoles out through the meadow, and I'm putting together a video, so we'll have it in another few months. I still don't have all of this stuff ready to go, but I'm on the air. I'm on AM every morning on 3880, 3885, and we'll be on 160, and we'll be on 75 on 3850 after a little bit with the coaxial dipoles. But yeah, we're having fun. And as you can see in here, we got our internet going up by the satellite. I'm so happy with this Viasat system. I can't tell you how cool this is. But we're getting there, and we'll give you more. And we're going to have some video. Gordon and I are talking about putting a station together. We're going to give you some details of how do you start fresh? What do you do? And we're not talking about systems like the contest guys and all these. We're talking about simple stations with one radio. I have one radio and one antenna. And all you have to do is make it work. And we're going to show you how to do that in several steps. So that's coming up after Dayton. We'll have some information for you, Cheryl.
Great. And can you tell us what headset you were using at that NAB Ham Nation episode last week? Someone wanted to know what model number that was, Bob. Do you recall?
Well, it's called the ProSet 3, and it's been a year in its making. And I think Leo liked them so well, he took them with him to Norway. And I know. The chat room's going to get all over me, but these things are incredible, and I'm really excited. It's just a headset. It's the first time in my whole career we built just a headset, and I did it for not just amateur radio, but for broadcasting and audio files and just good stuff. And how did I know to do that? Ham radio, being on here working in the lab and making the smoke and solder run. I love doing it and sharing it with all of you. And thanks for asking, Cheryl. The ProSet 3 be available a couple weeks.
Great. And Gordo, hi to you out there in California, and to Julian as well. And I got a question. Ray N9JA wanted to know how the Baker 2 Vegas race went.
Baker to Vegas, a public safety race that goes 50 miles. Temperature was 110 degrees. The runners were maintaining, but a few were dropping out, actually dropping on the pavement. And it was ham radio that provided so much great communications to bring in the services to help those injured racers. But it worked out well, and ham radio really starred as great communications where there was little cell phone coverage between Baker and Las Vegas, but plenty of ham coverage. And one last question for Cheryl. Tell us about that map that is upside down, but it's really right side up. Cheryl?
Well, thanks for asking, Gordo. Actually, one of our viewers in Australia didn't think that the upside down map was wrong, so he says, I want to give you the official upside down map. So he mailed it and ordered it special for me, so I have it on display here. It's truly the all world upside down map. It was printed that way with the actual lettering face up, so I keep it there in his honor, actually. So we thank him for that. And I just wanted to say one more question. Do we have time for one more?
Oh, we always do, Cheryl.
Okay. Maybe you might have an answer to this. They asked tonight in the chat room, what rig control software could be recommended for a Mac to a FT857D as in Delta? I keep getting this question many times. If someone could take that.
All right, I know the 857D. Julian says he's going to look it up for next week because next week Julian's going to be showing off the ICOM software to control the transceiver he's got now down at his base. We're also next week going to be showing off a lot of neat gizmos attaching to a VHF, UHF handheld radio. Next week, we're going to be talking about how to tune in an HF radio signal with an HF radio, talk about bandpass tuning. So, Cheryl, we'll give you an answer to that one when we look it up next week. But great question, Cheryl, from the chat room. Back to you for a final.
Okay, and I just have one other comment I'd like to say that came through the chat room for you, George. They say George can tune in Fiji with a Roman candle and some tinfoil, and if you add some Eye of Newt and rat's tails, he could probably pull in Mongolia on DX. What do you think? And that's all I have for tonight. Good night, everyone.
I don't know what to think, Cheryl. I'll have to get back to you on that one. 73, all.
Well, that's a great one, Cheryl. And, you know, down in Fiji is Don Arnold, and Don was the one that did the video that Julian's been editing of the ISS contact. You'll see that next week. Okay, Bob, over to you, and 73 to everyone from Gordo and Julian and Ham Nation. Bob?
Okay, I just want to tell everybody that I don't know what they did. Maybe it'll be a question you guys can address in the chat room next week. Cheryl has a huge signal on 3850. I don't know what she did. I don't expect her to answer right now, but let's be thinking about asking her next, what in the world did she do, man? She has got that Yesu cooking. She's loud and sounds really good. I just want to let you know that publicly. I don't know what Dave did for you, but boy, you turned the right button and put up the right piece of wire. And that's what it's all about, putting up a good antenna. Doesn't have to be, some wild thing. Just a resonant antenna on the frequency you want to do, and away you go. And we're going to get into more and more of that as here on Ham Nation, so get your pencils out. Next week, we're going to have K3LR. He's going to be here talking a little bit about his Contest University, which is really quite a deal. And he does for that around the Dayton, and it's really good. So, again, we've run out of time. I wish we had another 2 or 3 or 4 hours. We could just have all kinds of fun and drive Alex and Lynn crazy. But thanks for all your help in Petaluma. Thanks to all of you for watching. Thanks to the podcasters for listening. Send your questions, your answers, or whatever to any of us. We're all available. Our calls at ARRL, as you know, and we'll look forward to seeing you here again on Ham Nation. And throughout the week, please pay attention to the Twit Network. Leo has some fabulous programs that encompass all kinds of subjects. So be watching, and we will see you next week right here at the same time on Ham Nation. 7-3, everyone, from K9EID in Pleasant Hope, Missouri, population 614.
Ya nos conocimos de persona a persona y una persona bien linda.